Hello guys, Ben here from Wrestling Life Again, recording a video that I honestly did not expect to be recording. It wasn't that long ago that I recorded a video saying that I was stepping away from WWE. Very tired of the product, tired of the politics, tired of the sports washing. I just needed a break. I honestly thought when I recorded that video that the next time that I would watch a WWE product would be WrestleMania 42. I couldn't imagine not watching WrestleMania, but I thought I need a really long break to find my joy with watching WWE again. And I thought I'll just take some time off, not watch any of it, and just see how I'm feeling come April. And I haven't watched anything since posting that video. Until this morning, because two friends who I trust greatly, who have great wrestling minds, both text me to say, Ben, I know you're taking a break right now, but you have to watch Crown Jewel. It's why we became wrestling fans. You need to watch this show. And as much as I do often get in my own head and kind of stick with my guns when I've decided to do something, I thought, no, I trust you guys. I'm going to do this. Partly I was kind of drawn to it anyway because I am keeping my, keeping focused on the cards and keep seeing what's happening with WWE. And when I looked at this card and saw that you had both Cena and AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, I was like, the pure wrestling fan in me is like, politics aside, wider WWE macro stuff aside, those are just two matches that I really want to watch as a fan, given the story arcs of both of those. So I gave it a go. It's taken me a long time to watch it because it's the weekend. As always, my kids are around, my wife's around. It's quite hard to find three and a half hours to watch a wrestling show. So I watched a bit last night. I watched a bit this morning. We watched the Lego Batman film and then I watched the end. So that is kind of an insight into how I watch wrestling these days. I never get a chance to actually watch the full thing at once as it's intended. But in a way that was nice because it kind of gave me kind of a chance to watch it episodically in chunks and to kind of go away and then think about what I thought of it. And in my mind, Crown Jewel is the best WWE PLE that I have seen this year. Now, that's not exactly the most kind of hyperbolic statement of all to make because, quite frankly, I've been incredibly underwhelmed by what I've seen this year. The Royal Rumble left me cold. WrestleMania 41 I thought was pretty soulless and had one of the worst finishes in WrestleMania history. SummerSlam, 2 nights, didn't do much for me. I gave WrestlePalooza a miss, and I'm glad I did from everything I've read. It hasn't really been a year of incredible PLEs. What I really liked about Crown Jewel, this show specifically, was that there wasn't really anything on the line. This was just a pure wrestling show. Now let me break down what I mean by that. I know technically that Crown Jewel championships were on the line and we're supposed to care, but I will never care about the Crown Jewel championships. They are two props in a Saudi Arabia tourist attraction. They literally mean nothing. They could be traded year on year on this show. The second the show is over, they're not mentioned again. No one cares. They're just this giant big belt, which looks ridiculous when you wear it, although not as ridiculous as the ring they're given. There is nothing to it. So the Crown Jewel angle wasn't anything for me. The champion versus champion thing, I'm not a big fan of. I wasn't a fan of it with Survivor Series. I'm not a fan of it now. I really believe that you should only have one world champion, one women's world champion. So I don't like the idea of champion versus champion. So those elements weren't big draws for me. In fact, the Crown Jewel Championship is a major turn-off, and I had to really push myself through the first 3 minutes of this show as they played this interminable scene of the championships being taken from Saudi Arabia to Australia, blah blah, who cares. But I stuck with it because, as I say, I trust my friends who text me. I trust John, I trust Sam, who both text me, and I stuck with this because if they say it's worth watching, then I will give it a shot. The first thing I noticed when I started watching was that the biggest winner of this show by a country mile was John Cena. how much money he made at the merch table, one can only imagine. But the sea of yellow shirts, compounded by the fact that everyone was sitting on blue seats, just made it look like it was over 10,000 minions. Just watching this show, which I thought was hilarious. But, you know, there's so much love for Cena right now on the tail end of this retirement tour. The other thing I liked going in was that this wasn't a huge stadium. I liked the fact that it was 13,000 fans. I like that intimacy. I miss the size of those shows. I think it's something we've got so used to seeing, these mega stadiums of 50, 80, 100,000 people. I really actually like it when you get those shows, which remind me very much of kind of going back to London Arena or the Birmingham NEC, where I used to go and watch wrestling shows. So I like that. I think it provides for a much better atmosphere. And I just love the Australian crowd so much as well. I just love, you know, it's so similar to a British crowd. The amount of wrestlers that were called wankers in this show just really made me smile. You know, there's just a really, really fun vibe to those shows. So let's get into it. First match, Australian street fight, because apparently that is a thing, between Roman Reigns and Bronson Reed. Now, obviously, because I've taken a break, I'm not really up to date that much with what's been going on with Bronson Reed, or the vision of his faction. Obviously, I know he's been paired with Paul Heyman. Obviously, if you're paired with Paul Heyman, you're pretty much on a path to gold, unless you're Curtis Axel. But I really like Bronson Reed. Everything I've seen about Bronson Reed, everything I've read, everything I've heard about him, seems like a genuinely nice guy, committed to the business, big fan of the business, got a really big upside, been plagued by injuries, but it seems like now is finally his time. He has a match with Roman Reigns. I still find it weird seeing Roman Reigns as like a pure babyface. Like, I just, you know, I loved him as champion from 2020 to 2024. I loved the bloodline. To see him as a babyface, I still find quite odd. To see him play into the crowd with Acknowledge Me, I still find quite strange. But he is where he is. We're not going to be booing Roman Reigns anytime soon. This match, you know, still strange to see Roman Reigns in an opening match. But, you know, for what it was, I enjoyed this match. As I said, I went into it with zero expectations. I was just determined to try and enjoy an evening of wrestling. And there was all sorts of nonsense. There were cricket bats and rugby balls and all sorts of nonsense. And then the Usos get involved, and then Bron Breakker gets involved with his crazy spear. I would not want to be on the receiving end of a Bron Breakker spear. But the headline is that Bronson Reed gets the win. And that's a really big thing. What I really liked about this, though, is that Michael Cole jumps out of his seat and says, "That's the first person to beat Roman Reigns in years." But doesn't actually say, "That's the first person to beat Roman Reigns in 338 days and 4 hours and 7 minutes," or whatever usual statistic he usually magically has on hand for these moments. So it actually felt genuinely like raw emotion for once and not pre-orchestrated, which was refreshing for Michael Cole. So that's a really big win for Bronson Reed. Obviously, interference aside and all the shenanigans and everything involving the bloodline, but really, really, you know, big win for Bronson Reed in his hometown. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. The next match on the card was the Women's Crown Jewel Championship. So champion versus champion. I didn't watch WrestlePalooza, so Stephanie Vaquer's title win, I'd missed all of that. I'd just seen the headlines. Obviously, Tiffany Stratton has been SmackDown Women's Champion for pretty much the entire year. So, you know, champion versus champion. It's always refreshing to see kind of the next evolution of the women's evolution kind of playing out against one another. Obviously, there's a massive upside to both Stephanie and Tiffany. For me, this match didn't massively hook me or get out of the starting blocks. There were some nice innovative moments of offense, some things I hadn't seen before, but I didn't feel like the massive drama was there. I didn't really feel like we were watching world champion versus world champion. It didn't feel that big, probably partly because of the placement on the card. You know, to be the second match of the night is never a position anyone wants to be in. It was what it was. Stephanie Vaquer gets the win, obviously, you know, riding high on this big kind of underdog story and how quickly she's ascended through the ranks, and she gets the giant, ridiculously large belt and the even more ridiculously large ring and the Triple H hug and the point and the fireworks, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, she's a Crown Jewel champion. She can now give that championship away and it can go in its little box at Saudi Arabia to the tourist attraction until the next year to presumably defend it. Who knows? But yeah, so that was what it was. Didn't do much for me. But to be honest, all I was waiting for was the match that I'd been texted about, which was you need to see AJ Styles versus John Cena, because that is an all-time classic. So when someone's texted you that, you kind of, I was like trying in the back of my mind to like park it, because I was like, I don't want to be going into this match necessarily thinking that, because I want to enjoy it, go on that journey and form my own opinion. I'm also always pretty cynical when people say things are 5-star, because everyone's view of a 5-star match is subjective. However, this match knocked my socks off. I absolutely adored it for what it was. I mean, it was... I still think that AJ Styles is probably Cena's best dance partner in WWE. Definitely up there with Kevin Owens for the matches that they had and the quality. But obviously going into this, you have the added kind of emotion, not only of Cena's retirement, but the fact that AJ Styles used this weekend to announce his retirement in 2026 as well. So proper kind of passing of the torch, end of an era match. And these two just, blew the roof off the place. The reaction for Cena, the reaction for AJ Styles, the effort and the energy they put in. And it's hard to describe this match because it's hardly like a 5-star classic in the traditional sense of the term, but actually as they traded finisher and finisher and finisher, it just became this like really wonderfully silly homage to all of these great opponents that we've had before. I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head what we had in there. We had a skull-crushing finale from The Miz. We had Sister Abigail from Bray Wyatt, which resulted in probably the most beautiful moment of the night, which was everyone doing the Fireflies suddenly, which was incredible. We had choke slams. We had Randy Orton RKO. We had a tease for a 619, which was a lovely little moment of calling an audible after the crowd started chanting for it. We had a choke slam. We had sweet chin music. We had a tombstone. I mean, it was just like a greatest hits of wrestling by two of the greatest of this generation. And watching it and seeing how the kind of crowd went up and up and up and up and up, it really reminded me of when I was lucky enough to be in Philadelphia for WrestleMania 40 and to see that Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns main event, because again, not necessarily a 5-star classic in the conventional sense of the term, but from a pure storytelling standpoint and how much the crowd adored it, really felt very similar vibes. I loved this match. I didn't want it to end. When you hear the crowd going "Fight Forever," it can get a bit, tried and tested, and tiresome, that chant. But this was one match where genuinely you wanted them to fight forever. After, 20 minutes, it felt like, 25 minutes, I haven't checked the match time, but a long match, a lot of finishes. Cena gets the win in stunning fashion. Makes a point of saying he's only got four matches left. I mean, as I said in the previous video, I will be stunned if December 13th is his last ever match in WWE and he doesn't go out at a WrestleMania. But regardless, for this retirement tour, 4 matches left, and if you want to go and get a ticket for his retirement match, then you only have to spend $12,000 to get a front row seat. So buy 4, take the whole family. So how do you come down from that? Well, you next have the hometown girl, Rhea Ripley, coming out to the pop of the night as she teams with Io Sky and the Kabuki Warriors. Now, I had no idea the Kabuki Warriors were still a thing. Obviously, I haven't been watching this product vividly all year and week in, week out, but I thought the Kabuki Warriors was a whole thing that had been shelved, but they're still going. Asuka and Kairi Sane are still going. This was what it was. I mean, it was a Rhea Ripley showcase. For one thing, it did do really, really well, is it kind of showed the importance of the hot tag and how amazing that can be if you really, really keep the crowd waiting. This is something that I remember talking a lot with Mark Mero about when we were going back for the book about his match at WrestleMania 14, Sable's first ever match, and how the entire match and all the planning with Goldust and Lena Vachon was built around the moment when Sable would get her hot tag and how that blew the roof off the place. And I really was kind of watching this match thinking about the importance of that hot tag and how special it is when you keep the audience waiting. And that's what we got here. Everyone was waiting for Rhea Ripley, and when she came out, it was an incredible pop. The match is what it is. It's an average tag match. I mean, how do you follow Cena and AJ Styles? You don't. But I enjoyed it for what it was. Great to see the joy that Rhea Ripley has been out there, and just great again to experience that Aussie crowd. So I'm kind of 4 matches into this show. I've watched an incredible match with Cena and Styles. I know I've still got a main event to come, and that main event is Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. The last time I'd seen these two in a ring was again when I got the opportunity to go and see WrestleMania 40 live, and they were partners in that match on night 1 against The Rock and Roman Reigns. So this match hooked me because obviously of the story and this kind of 3-year arc that they've been on. And I wanted to see kind of what they could do from here, because, that rivalry they've had, especially in 22 was phenomenal. And, Cody Rhodes' first match arriving back as the surprise partner for Seth Rollins is still one of the greatest moments in WrestleMania history, in my opinion. So to see kind of what they can do now 3 years on, again, this is with the men's Crown Jewel Championship on the line. This time Cody is defending the giant belt that hasn't been discussed for a year. And it's a really solid match. I don't think you can compete with the raw emotion of Styles and Cena. It was felt a bit like WrestleMania 18 and Triple H and Jericho trying to compete after, the Rock and Hogan. But it's a really solid match. I mean, these two, I could genuinely watch Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins wrestle all day. Each day, every day. I mean, there's just so much chemistry there. You can see the respect for one another. Their pacing's perfect. Their timing's perfect. They are dream opponents who showcase one another so well and do everything to make one another look so good. I loved this whole kind of storyline with the watch and this watch that Cody gave to Seth at WrestleMania 40, and would he use that as a weapon? Would he not? Were we going to have a Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 8 kind of moment? We kind of teased it about this kind of, I love this kind of long-term storytelling, the fact that actually, we as fans are being rewarded because we followed this journey, and that's one of the great things about wrestling, that we have stuck with this story and now we get this payoff now, and I love that. I love the fact that, the right man won in the end, that Seth Rollins slayed the demon that's been on his back, that finally he gets his win over Cody Rhodes. He gets the big giant belt. He gets that nice callback with Triple H saying, "Go on, boss man, you've done this plenty of times before," as he puts the belt around his waist like he did all those years ago with the NXT title. It's the right finish. The one bugbear I do have is the ridiculous kickouts, particularly Cody Rhodes hitting a top road crossroads, which was incredible to see, and that only being a 2 count. I mean, that is just bonkers and ridiculous on so many levels, and you just think, keep that one in your arsenal for when you can finish a match with it, a match on a major stage. Similarly, the kind of setting up of the second rope curb stomp, or top rope curb stomp, whatever it was, it's just so like, you could see it a mile off. It's like, oh, here we go. It's like moments like that really take you out of the action. So I didn't love those moments, but right man won, and show goes off the air. There's no big return. There's no legend or anything coming back at the end for that last minute kind of pop. It's just a pure 5-match wrestling show with great wrestlers doing what they do best, which is tell stories in the ring. Nothing really on the line. Just a good one-off show. And that's why I really, really loved it. And I would say, based on what I've seen this year, hands down, WWE's PLE of 2025, from everything I've seen so far and everything I imagine is still to come this year. It was the kind of show that I could just come in, dip my toes back in the WWE waters, remind myself why, when I can put politics and everything else to the side and just sit down on the sofa with the dog on my lap and watch wrestling, why I love wrestling so much, and specifically why I fell in love with WWE so much. So I don't know where I go from here. I imagine I'll continue on dipping into a bit of TNA here, a bit of WWE here, bit of AEW over there. I mean, the truth is that I'm so busy right now trying to grow this channel in terms of landing great interviews and trying to find unexpected guests that you haven't heard from for a while, that I genuinely don't have that much time to watch wrestling, as silly as that sounds for someone who is a wrestling YouTuber. But between all the interviews I'm trying to do for the channel and obviously working on the new books that I'm working on too, there is only so much time to watch wrestling. So you won't get probably many topical videos like this, but when I have something to say, and hopefully something positive to say, then you will hear from me. And this is an overwhelmingly positive feedback to WWE. Well done. This was a good show. Please keep it up, because this is what fans want. This is what brought you to the dance. This is what made you the top company in the world. And this is what we want to see. Just great wrestling, great storytelling. Less of the nonsense, please. And just give us what we want. So that's it for today. I would say a big thumbs up, 2 big thumbs up for WWE Crown Jewel 2025 from Perth. I've been Ben Veal. This is Wrestling Life, a channel for real talk from real talent. Occasionally I jump in with a little video like this, but mainly it's interviews with past wrestling legends and future rising stars. If I'd love to hear what you think, please drop a comment below. Let me know, what did you think of WWE Crown Jewel, and where would you rate it against this year's shows? So until next time, I've been Ben Veal. This is Wrestling Life. That was my Crown Jewel review, and I will see you all very, very soon. Bye.